Welcome to SVL Free News for Wednesday, September the 26th. It's going to be heating up down here in downtown Statesville after last week, after we had a little bit cooler weather. But this week, there's going to be something hot going on here, right here at Delaney Sports Bar, and I'll tell you about what that is here. First of all, let's thank our sponsors, Mitchell College, Randy Marion, Piedmont Healthcare, Blue Harbor Bank, Fast Fields, Key to Escape, The Escape Room, Statesville Family YMCA, and Crossroads Cycling, which is just down the block here from me and at Delaney. So you can buy you a bike to tour around this fall in beautiful Iredell County. Okay, so the event that's going to happen here on Wednesday night, you've heard of the guest bartending series, but this is a special edition on Wednesday night, the 26th. The Hunks and Heels. It's a womanless beauty pageant. It's going to be happening next Friday at the Statesville Civic Center. You can buy tickets at statesvilletheater.com. But this is it's to benefit American Red Cross, so that you can join us for food, drinks, and fun, and get your tickets also for the Hunks and Heels Womanless Beauty pageant here at Delaney's as well. Okay, so also coming up this weekend at Twisted Oak American Bar and Grill, it's Hope Fest. This is the annual fundraiser for Hope's Wings Cancer Support Services. The event raises funds for scholarships as well as cancer support services provided each day by Hope's Wings. It's a very valuable nonprofit, does a lot of good here in Statesville, Iredell County. This year the featured bands are Randy and Sidney Floyd with special guest Gene Farr, and Tin Can Alley, which features Mel Jones, one of my favorites. Always a good time with those two bands. Tickets are $25, does not include food and drink, but you can buy food and drink there from Twisted Oak American Bar and Grill. Okay, a third event coming up this weekend. Earlier this year, I talked to Zach Wyatt with Carolina Jubilee. This is a local nonprofit designed to help farmers with the Farm to Plate movement, assist local farming here in Statesville and Iredell County. So the event is held at Van Hoy Campground. It starts this Friday. You can get your tickets at thecarolinajubilee.org. Okay, our special guest today is Interim Police Chief David Onley. Mike Fuhrman sat down with him talking about the responsibilities he's currently doing as Interim Chief, as well as his previous job there, or his current job too. He's filling two roles at one time. He talks about what his strategy is as interim and beyond. So let's listen to Mike and Chief
Thanks,
Onley.
Brian. I'm here today at the Statesville Police Department with Interim Police Chief David Onley. Chief, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, you've had the interim tag officially for about 3 weeks now.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about the transition and how that's going. I know you're essentially doing two jobs now.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the transition first.
At least we had some time to prepare. I think that the city manager made a selection early, so we would have time. So I had a lot of time to work with Chief Barone through this transition process, and to just try to make sure that we keep things going on a steady course. My biggest part was making sure that the department and people in the community knew that we weren't going to come off the rails. You know, You're still going to get police service the same way, but you keep keeping the guys within the organization briefed on everything that's going on and making them aware of the process is important, and we've really tried hard to do that. And that's been my biggest point. You don't want to make too many changes. I mean, if, once the police chief gets selected, whether it be me or someone from outside, you want them to have the opportunity to make changes in the organization. So that's why I haven't really wanted to shift around a whole lot during this process, because I didn't want to do anything and in 90 days turn right around and that they have the possibility of getting the world turned upside down again. So.
Now, we hear a lot about the challenges that the police department has had recruiting and retaining, the best officers you can. I know you were telling me earlier you have about 9 openings right now, but you have 5 recruits in the pipeline that hopefully you'll have on the streets in early January.
Correct.
And then you're also already preparing for your next class of recruits.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We are currently in a selection process now for the police recruit program. It actually closes this Friday, so by all means, if there's anyone out there interested in wanting to be an officer, you can contact the agency, get in contact with Captain Tom Souther, and he will make you aware of that process. But we are closing applications this Friday. We have testing for those positions starting the 6th of October will be the day that we do the physical test and the written assessment, and start narrowing that field down, and then start a very extensive background investigation process, which takes a long amount of time. I mean, you don't appreciate how much time. You talk to the investigators that do them. A good background investigation will take you 2 weeks on one person.
Okay.
So when you get into the numbers of 40 and 50 people, that's a lot to try to divvy out amongst investigators in the police department and get them narrowed down. But it is a year-long process where we keep this going. The police recruit program has been very successful. We've gotten excellent candidates from them. I think the biggest thing is it allows people with life experience more of an opportunity to come in and be a police officer. They, a lot of them you couldn't afford to quit your job, provide for your family, or take care of your bills just to quit to go to school for 3 or 4 months and with no guarantee of a job. Well, this allows, I think, those people to come in, go through this process, and then we actually pay them while they're in school. So it is an exciting process. You speak with a lot of people, but like I spoke with you about before, it gets long. You'll see these people that are getting ready to graduate in December. Back in March is when we started talking to them at first, and you can't wait to get them on. But in reality, they're not going to be on the street till at best mid to late January. So,
and you want them to be ready. You don't want to rush it.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
So the recruiting program has been successful.
It has been.
You've found a high quality of officer coming through the program, and they've all adapted well to the work on the street.
Yes, it is. It's been very good.
So is it the same issues kind of that we've seen historically? Officers leaving for better pay or better benefits at the larger agencies surrounding counties?
Retention is the biggest battle that we fight here. We are a very active department. We answer a lot of calls for service. Officers on the streets are very busy. Officers here at Statesville get a lot of experience in a short period of time dealing with a lot of situations. And that looks good to other agencies. And when you have other agencies that may pay a little bit more, offer better benefits, and you have candidates that don't have, or you have officers that don't really have a tie to the community, they haven't lived here their whole life, or they have family here, that will take those opportunities to move to another department or another agency where the pay's better, benefits are better, and it happens. And I don't know, you really want to invest a lot in officers when they're young, get them trained, get them as much education as you can in that process, but you always have that fear in the back of your mind, am I preparing him to be an officer at another agency?
Right. And I know the city council really tried to address that during the budget session. It was a contentious budget season anyway, but when it came down to the voting, I think the budget failed 3 or 4 times. Michael Johnson would not vote for the budget that did not include a substantial amount of money for exactly what we're talking about. Increasing the salaries for the officers in hopes of keeping them here longer. So hopefully you'll see that program pay some dividends in the coming year. But I think people understand it's difficult to compete with Charlotte-Mecklenburg and what they have to pay. And as the smaller agencies increase their pay, they're probably just going to increase their pay more, right?
That seems to be the trend.
Okay. Now, you talked a little bit about all the experience that the officers get. I think a lot of people pay attention when there's a big arrest or there's a drug raid. They may look at the listing of the felony arrests every week. But I think that doesn't really paint the entire picture of what an officer does in the course of a week. Can you give us an idea of maybe the volume of calls that the SPD is answering a week and the types of different calls? And then obviously you have some large investigations that you're still working on.
Yeah, to kind of take it in a step-by-step process, the patrol officers are very busy, and that's where you normally see most of your vacancies hurt the patrol division the worst, because that's kind of where your vacancies are normally carried. So your officers there are responsible for answering a lot more calls and a lot more variety of calls, like you talked about, from a barking dog to a serious crime. Somebody's broken somebody's house. There's been a larceny. They answer just an array of calls throughout the day and the night. It's different. It's funny when you come into this job and you see how things are and you're young and you don't appreciate things as an organization. You kind of take them on as yourself. But as you see how things transition through the years, just since I've been here, there were nights where from midnight to 6 in the morning when I was working patrol, you would get 4 or 5 calls total. There's nights now where these patrol officers are going into at midnight, 1 o'clock, where there's still 8 and 10 calls it's holding because they are so busy dealing with from intoxicated individuals, suspicious persons, alarms, alarm activations, traffic accidents. I mean, there's so many things that's changing, but a lot of it's got to do with and I don't want to get into a whole spiel, our society's changing, where there's a lot more times where people are out later at night doing a lot more things now than years past. It wasn't as common for people to be out doing as many things at night, and that makes us busy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So we're becoming more urban in a lot of ways.
We are. That's very good. And we, like you talked about with the active investigations, we are still, and we will still in the foreseeable future have a very active violent crimes unit. They are still working on the investigations involving YG and DJ Turner. Like we talked about before, just the fact that the community sees an arrest in a case, we don't want them to think that investigation stopped when that arrest was made. It is a continuous process that they are always trying to track down new information. A lot of times when you make an arrest of somebody, when that person comes off the street, more information will come in, either through that person or through other people out in the community that maybe aren't as fearful as they were before to come forward, or for whatever reason triggered them to want to come in and talk to us. So those investigations never stop. It's just a continuous process, and we never stop looking for ways to improve, and we're working as hard as we can.
Now, what about in terms of drug crimes? We hear a lot that most of the property crimes are driven by either somebody wanting to steal things so they can buy drugs, or that whole culture. Are you seeing that right now, that there's an underlying kind of drug culture that's driving a lot of the property crimes?
Drugs are part of it. I mean, there's a drug nexus to a lot of crime, or a lot of criminal activity. But where it ties into that it's hard. A lot of it's got to do more gang-related crimes, more money trying to go back to people that are involved in those type of organizations or activity in the community. It's just a vast majority, and we keep seeing the offenders that's committing these crimes are younger and younger and younger. And property crimes, just to get into that, is one of the biggest problems we face in Statesville, and that's why we've started a little bit of a stronger initiative to get out there with our crime prevention program to try to make people aware. Don't leave stuff in your cars overnight. Don't leave your car unlocked. Don't leave your keys in your car at night. That drives our crime rate up in the city substantially. And if we could ever get to the point where we could harden our city against that, the whole community would benefit, because our crime rates would go down.
Right. So you'd have more time to spend on other things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you would have a lot less victimization in the city. A lot of it's crime of opportunity, and when they walk by a car and see a $2,000 laptop laying on the seat and the window or the car's unlocked, they open it and take it, even if they weren't planning on it.
Right.
It presents itself, and they take that opportunity.
Okay. Well, let's back up just a couple steps and talk about the Violent Crimes Collaborative. That was something Chief Barone started.
Yes.
Had a lot of success. I think in the first, must be 8 or 9 months now, you've cleared several cases.
Yes.
The public probably wants to know if that is still something that's active, that's ongoing now that Chief Barone's retired.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something we made permanent as an organization. I mean, we have gave them their own place within the police department. We've reorganized as an agency to allot personnel just specifically for that division. And we learned a lot through that process. I talked to Chief Barone before he left. You think a lot about putting officers on the street. Putting officers on the street is important. As many officers as you can get out there. But, is putting some of your resources on the back end, on the investigation side, where you can actually take a group and dedicate them to violent crime. Because I would give you, in the past, before we started this initiative, you would have someone who who would be assigned a homicide investigation, that 2 weeks into it, if they didn't have any leads, they start getting other cases. From break-ins to anything else, and they've still got this homicide case hanging over their head, plus all this stuff coming in. Where now we've taken it to where that group, all they work is violent crimes. They don't get anything else. So we've seen we're taking some of the resources out of the patrol division and bringing them back on the investigation side has paid benefits, and we've seen it through the reduction in violent crime, and it is still active. It's not going to stop during my tenure, and we've seen those numbers drop substantially since January to now.
Well, I think one thing that has been eye-opening about that Violent Crimes Collaborative is we've seen that Statesville's not an island, and how Statesville's connected to Hickory and Moxville and Salisbury, in terms of these criminal networks, for lack of a better term. Is that something that in the past maybe you knew anecdotally, or you saw it in a few cases, but now that you have this broader focus, it's kind of like, why didn't this light bulb come on a lot earlier for us?
For some reason, and you will find out the more you get involved and the more you understand about law enforcement agencies, we are terrible at sharing information. It is kind of like you get something and you want to hold on
It's
to
like a
it
turf,
and cover it. Right. And you don't want to bring in other people, number one, to let them know what you're dealing with in your city, but other people are reluctant to share information with you because it's something they covet, and like you said, it's on their turf. And that's the biggest step that we made, and we saw the benefits from it, because we were finding out that the surrounding agencies, surrounding jurisdiction, were dealing with the same people we were.
Right.
Had we not reached out to other organizations outside of Statesville, outside Iredell County, some of those cases would still be where we were before.
Right.
We would still be hunting for answers that we had none. And, had we not wandered into a drug investigation in another county, that's what started this whole process and started the ball rolling, and it's been great.
Well, continued success. I appreciate you taking the time today to speak with us, and best of luck to you in the hiring process as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So there you have it. A good interview, a good overview, extensive interview with Interim Chief David Onley with the Statesville Police Department. I want to thank him for coming on the show. Okay, so there you have it. Delaney's Wednesday night. The Hunks and Heels guest bartending is right here on Saturday. There's Hope's Fest at Twisted Oak American Bar and Grill, and also Carolina Jubilee all this weekend at Van Hoy Campgrounds to benefit local farming. So a lot to do there. If you haven't done it already, go to svlfreenews.com right here to sign up for your email edition, which comes out every morning at 5 a.m. and to get the latest going on here from Statesville Free News. So you guys have a great week, and I will see you on Friday with more updates of what's going on here in Statesville and Iredell County.